On today's episode, I'm joined by Rachel Lea Fishman, co-founder of Arketa, the platform that's quickly becoming the operating system for boutique fitness and wellness. Rachel Lea's journey started in the wake of COVID, when studios were scrambling to survive and adapt to a digital-first world. Out of that challenge came Arketa, and under her leadership, the company has just closed a substantial fundraising round to fuel its next stage of growth. In this conversation, Rachel Lea shares what it really means to lead a fast-scaling tech organization, why customer obsession sits at the heart of everything they do, and how our behaviors and our very relationship with movement are evolving in ways that will shape the future of fitness. This is an insightful episode with a truly inspiring leader. And if you want to find out more about Arketa, go to arketa.com. Here it is. Rachel Lea, thank you so much for joining us. Delighted to have you on the reformerpilates.com podcast. With your permission, let's just get straight into it with my first question, if that's okay.
Great.
You were a product manager with a love for movement, and I was stunned to hear the tech company that you first worked for allowed you to take a 10 o'clock class to maintain your yoga teaching. How did you make that work? Many don't.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I found yoga in college, as one does, and mom and dad would not pay for the $300 a month membership. So I did what many of us do, and I started by cleaning studios. And you can only clean so many mats and blocks until you're taking 1, 2, 3 classes a day, and you end up becoming an instructor. So I did my 200-hour teacher training. I became a group fitness certified instructor and started working the desk. And startups have crazy hours. And I got really lucky that my first managers and bosses said, hey, you can go teach a class and work at this startup. And I did just that. And I fell in love with how interfaces look and feel and work. And I also fell in love with the community behind the desk. And we would just look at our software, as one does when checking people in. And the questions just went on and on. Why is this so bad? Why is it crashing? Why is it outdated? Why are we making no money? Why can't we rule the world? We knew that what we did was so powerful. And in my tech background, I saw that huge companies like Toast for restaurants and Square for coffee shops are just innovating like the speed of light. And I just couldn't understand why this incredible community of humans that I was a part of was just stuck in the 90s and early 2000s. And so the mission of Arketa was very clear from day one. If we're going to rule the world in the wellness industry, we have to have a technology that supports that. And now the rest is history. We have a full team that does this stuff all day, every day. And the mission has always been the same and continues to be the same, which is how do we give the tools that our community needs to rule the world?
Thank you. That balance says a lot about how, I suppose, deeply rooted your passion for movement is. I'd love to rewind a little bit further and, dig into that journey a little bit more in terms of, what led you from, I think you've already alluded to it, you're teaching yoga, you're seeing firsthand some of the challenges, the innovations in other spaces, but, talk to us a bit more about that in terms of what led you to build Arketa.
Yeah, I'm sure many instructors or studio owners resonate with this, but when you're teaching for another studio and you start to build your own following, I would have 60 people in a packed mat-to-mat class, and I would start doing the math on how many people were coming because of me and how much money I was taking home and how much money everyone else was taking home. And I started to ask my favorite instructors and inspired me that had these same packed classes saying, hey, it's great. We came here, we learned, we conquered. Why don't we just open our own studio? Why are we not ruling the world? This is very similar in the beauty industry, in the plumbing and electrician industry, in HVAC, where you're an apprentice, you learn from someone incredible, you take a pay cut to do so that you can build your following, and then you go do it on your own. And that is the career of a lot of people in these trades. In fitness, it was much different. We were just stuck as apprentices, for lack of a better word, and we couldn't get out. And the phrase was always the same. It's expensive to open a studio. I'm scared to do it. I'm afraid people won't follow me. I'm not sure I can open one. And COVID totally transformed that because you didn't need a four wall to kind of do your own thing. And it was the force function everybody needed. But yeah, the aha moment was what we do is incredibly special. And we're not compensated enough for it at both the instructor level, the studio manager level, and the owner level. All three levels are lacking. And we're lacking because we don't have the tools to monetize. And so if everyone can make more money, then all three layers of employment can win and be a better ecosystem.
So it sounds like that aha moment for you was almost like, democratizing everybody that's involved with yoga in your instance, having a share of the pie, so to speak. Would you say that's
100%.
about right?
Everybody should win. And I couldn't win as an instructor because my manager couldn't win in their pay. And my manager couldn't win in their pay because the owner couldn't win in their pay. If the owner doesn't have enough money to be a profitable business, they can't stay in business. And then they can't pay their manager and talent. And you kind of have this cycle of everybody in the business. And how do we break that cycle so that all tiers can win, regardless of how you want to be in the industry?
You mentioned COVID, more catalyst and accelerator, more threat, bit of both. How do you think about it now?
Yeah, it was a really hard time for the industry where everything shut down. I like to say the whole fitness industry got wiped in under 24 hours. For Arketa, it was a total catalyst of our business. And the why was on March 20th, I think it was here in the States, our whole world fully shut down. And 2 days later, Arketa was helping instructors and studio managers and owners all go online. We were taking payments through an app so that instructors could take donations and studio owners could take donations to stay afloat. And we became a recognized name very quickly because we were the first ones to help the community because we were a startup that could move and pivot. And that first mover advantage allowed us to build a brand. Now, I don't know what would have happened if there wasn't COVID. I'm sure we would have found a wedge or a different product or a way to get into the market. But COVID made every single owner run their business entirely differently, which meant that they had to dispose of every single tool they were using. And if they wanted to stay alive, they had to take a risk on a small startup. And by a small startup, me, myself, I, and my co founder at the time on a product. And so for us, it was a total blessing for the company. It allowed us to gain a ton of traction and momentum. And then when studios started reopening, we already had that name brand trust where people said, hey, Arketa, can you just operate everything for me, not just online?
Amazing. So fast
Yeah.
forward to today. Arketa is known for creating seamless experiences for both studios and clients. You're the first touch point.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that maintaining that kind of customer first discipline is vital at Arketa. How do you foster that? How do you maintain that obsession with a kind of customer first discipline?
Yeah, I mean, it started with myself. I take a class every day. I text studio owners and managers and instructors all the time. Like my whole phone is that community. And that's because these are my friends and I care about them and I want to see them win. And when we first started the company, it was just me doing that. And what really resonated with owners is you actually understand this industry. You come from a product background, so you actually understand how components need to lay on screens and what I need to succeed. And then third, there's that empathy that just can't be recreated. And I used to get asked, Rachel Lea, can you put yourself in a tiny little bottle and can you sprinkle that fairy dust across the industry? How do we take this lining that you seemingly have and build a company around it? And so what I thought is, okay, who has those shared values and beliefs about this industry? Who, no matter what, is going to go above and beyond for an owner, not because it's in their job description, but because they care? It's people that have a tie to the industry. And so more than half of our team today comes from industry. There are many that don't, but they resonate with it because they love running outside or they had an injury and a PT to change their lives. Everyone at Arketa has a shared vision. And that shared vision is that we know that wellness changes our lives. And we believe that we need to power the people that work 24/7 to change the lives of others. Because if we don't, wellness goes away. And so what we ended up doing is it's a part of our hiring practice. In our interview processes, we ask, what's your wellness routine? Tell us about someone that's changed your life. Tell us about a time that you went above and beyond for someone else. We're looking for people that are caring and empathic and do things for others without being asked just because they care. And so how does that end up translating to being customer first? Everyone on our support staff comes from industry. So if you live chat Arketa, we have 30 seconds or less live chat, email, request a callback, where that person that's responding is localized and in your country. Meaning if you're chatting in from the UK or Europe, you're having someone in your time zone, US time zone, Australia, et cetera, et cetera. And the people that are responding come from industry, the previous owners, instructors, managers. What does that mean is they really get this. They're not someone that's telling you, oh, just set up a class pack like this. They're telling you, oh, here's what I've seen in my years of industry. Or they feel for an owner when that owner might be frustrated with their tech because they've been in those shoes. And that just doesn't exist in industry. And how we did that is we made it a very, very intentional part of our hiring practice is not only hiring for top 5% talent, but making sure that above all else, it's humans that really care about this industry.
So that's a really interesting point and very poignant right now, with obviously living through an incredible moment in humankind as AI starts to show up in pretty much all parts of our life, right? A lot of what Arketa is about is making kind of frequent tasks easier. So not the one-to-one human interaction, but accounting and templates. How is Arketa leveraging AI in that role and in various different processes for its customers?
Yeah, we use AI to automate tasks that should and can be automated. So what don't you want to automate is a one-on-one phone call when you want to set up payroll for the first time. It's a big task. It's complicated. No one wants to talk to a chatbot to do that. So Arketa support, we leverage AI when it makes sense. In our actual product, we think about it the same way. I'll give you an example. If a customer's credit card declines, do you really need to reach out to them 100 times to get them on the phone to talk about it? Or do you want some sort of system that uses AI to leverage the best times to charge that card so that Amex doesn't think that it's fraud? This is really common in credit cards. Credit cards tag declines for all sorts of reasons, the time of the day, the amount, just because they feel like it. They're trying to protect the consumer, but they're also not helping the business owner get a charge that should be charged across. So how does AI solve that? AI can automatically update expired cards and know the best optimal times to charge. That's an example that a studio owner just doesn't need to waste their time with. So any sort of card failures, we do a great job at automating with AI and leveraging it. The second is going to be around communications. Consumers will reach out to you as a business owner about the same things over and over again. What's your parking like? Can I pause my membership? What day of the week is your sound bath? I forgot. I mean, consumers want to get simple answers to questions quickly, clearly, and they want to move on with their lives. So 2 ways we automate this is we have an AI chatbot. It lives on your website. If a customer reaches out and has any of those questions, the chatbot can not only respond to those questions, but it can also use AI to leverage actions. Think allowing a customer to quickly book a class, change an appointment, see what's left on their package. These are all things where a customer doesn't really need to talk to a human. They just need to get the task done quickly, right? There's no nuance there. We do the same thing in the dashboard with AI for all of the customer support inquiries and responses. I want to pause my membership. I have an injury. Do I need my Pilates grip socks at the studio? AI can be responding to all of those questions. And what's beautiful about AI, as we know, is natural language will be trained on your responses. So it gets better with time. So an owner can use AI, build a template, tweak it to be a little bit more human, click send. That helps an owner save more time because what's the magic at the studio? The magic at the studio is the words that you say in the classes. It's not the 2-sentence email about what is parking is like. No one cares and moves on. And then the third thing that we're using AI for is how do we make marketing more efficient? Owners are not big marketing teams and marketing agencies, and business owners need to cut costs so that they can have great economics to stay afloat. So how we can help owners save time and make money in marketing is automating all their copy so they don't need to hire a copywriter, but also figuring out who to target intentionally without an owner needing to spend the brain power load deciding who to target. So I'll give you an example. We're launching something in the Arketa product where you could use natural language to say something like, hey, find me everyone who you think is going to churn in the next 30 days. That natural language will then use AI to determine who should be put in a sequence. And then boom, you can send a marketing automation that over the course of 3 days reminds someone to come back so that they don't churn. Why is this great for a studio owner? One, they don't have to spend the time figuring out who am I segmenting and how am I segmenting it. Two, owners are not tech savvy, so using natural language is beautiful. It's just a beautiful thing. I want to find everyone who's about to churn. I want to find everyone who I want to upgrade. Let the tech decide what those filters are. And then three, it's saving them time because they don't have to sit there and sift in the tech, and it's helping them make more money because it's a marketing automation that they may not have done because they're doing 10 million other things. And so how we think about AI is not let's just build AI to say we have it and to make it sexy and have this product nobody uses. Let's build it really intentionally with the tasks we know owners are already doing or not doing because they don't have time to help them really pick up the pace.
Yeah, that's a great example of the two ends of the spectrum. Fairly arbitrary, standard, let's say relatively low value responses,
Exactly.
but right at the other end of that, sophistication in terms of marketing, identifying segmentation and then executing an actual marketing plan with sequences that's that's a big thing that we talk to a lot of studio owners that is challenging for them to get to. So hats off. You're a person you've always done exercise, you've always done movement, but you continue to take lots of classes, and I'm interested to understand how that helps you anticipate studio owners' struggles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is hard for me to be in the studio 40 hours a week. At the end of the day, I work at a tech company, but at the same time, I need to always be learning, growing, and evolving, just like studio owners and instructors are. They're either learning new formats, they're learning new skills that they can do to up level themselves. And one of the skills that I've been wanting to do personally is how do I do a training with an apparatus? All of my previous teacher trainings have been with some hand weights or yoga, which is the human body, but moving around and with a machine is just a totally different experience. I think immersing myself in something that is scary and new, one helps me just grow as a human, public speaking skills, being involved with the community, being in the know. And then I also get to learn about a new layer of the business, which is when I did my teacher trainings, it was in a pre pandemic world. It was a much different experience. The sales process was different. The training process was different. The test out process was different. So by going through that training again, it helps me stay current as to what is going on. And I'll give you an example as I became friends with a lot of people in that training and I started to understand why are people doing trainings? Are they doing it to make more money? Are they doing it because a job is on the side? What about the Instagram ads intrigued them to get to do those trainings? Was it a really cool model on the reformer? Was it the word reformer? Was it the location? Was it the dates? Was it the price? Being able to actually talk to other people like me who went and purchased this helps me understand, okay, how can owners better market these types of programs? And then the third is when going through the actual training itself, I could understand as a consumer, hear all the things I loved and didn't like, and hear all the things that I think an owner could do in the future to leverage technology for that product. And the best way to build incredible products is to immerse yourself into it. I think the most boring PMs that build products nobody uses, they lick their finger, they look at a product or two, and they're like, okay, I'm just going to launch this because I think I know it. Well, what better way than to build a great product than to actually immerse yourself into 200 hours of what is a training experience to build a product around a training experience? I think there's nothing that replaces it. It's kind of like me working a bunch of desk shifts or talking to owners, seeing things from different perspectives are incredible. And then the last thing I'll land with is at the end of the day, I just love this industry. I love teaching, I love taking, I love being a part of it. And so for me, learning to teach around a reformer and learning about spring loads and how you can use the box and pre and postnatal modifications, it is such a booming market that is so exciting for me personally that I also just do it for fun.
Nice that you can immerse yourself in the activity that your software solves for. There's you can think of a multitude of other industries, that's not quite as
Yeah,
fun.
plumbing
But
might be a little difficult. Learning to take apart toilets and find mirrors that little
yeah,
kids flush down is a different world.
that's it. That's not that might be not be on your list. But great. That's kind of a segue into the data that's created from leveraging your platform. Is significant, right? Keen to understand from your perspective, how do you feel you need to help owners sometimes focus on the right KPIs and perhaps not just vanity metrics or the kind of the standard stuff of just growing members? How much do you lean in on that, and how much of a challenge is it? Probably is the first question.
Yeah. Owners always want to focus on number of members and total dollar revenue. At the end of the day, any sort of studio, yoga studio, Pilates studio, gym, they make money on profits. And how do you become profitable? You look at your costs. So the biggest decision a studio owner ever makes is the lease that they sign. Your biggest cost of studio owner is your lease. If you come to Arketa and you just signed a wild lease where you can only fit a certain amount of reformers in the space and your rent is through the roof, doesn't really matter how many members you have, that business is just never going to work. And so I think a lot of times owners confuse the North Star KPI of members to profits. And what they really need to be focusing on is what member number or what revenue number do they need to hit to break even? And then what number do they need to hit to be happy with profits? At the end of the day, a break even studio is, I guess, nice. You're running a business, but now you've kind of just become a charity because no one's taking home additional cash. Nobody's growing the business. It's kind of running, which is okay if I guess you want to do good in the world. It's fine. But at the end of the day, I want you to be able to pay for lunch and dinner and go to Greece and go on vacation. So then as an owner, you need to figure out, okay, how much money in profits will make me happy? For some owners, it's 1,000 or 2 a month. Maybe they're doing it on the side. Maybe they have a partner that works, so it's less about the money for them. And then for some people, it's a salary. And then an owner needs to decide, okay, what salary do I need to make to be happy with my life? That salary needs to get added to a little bit of profits. And then the third thing you need to think about is, okay, if I want to grow this business, I need enough profits for my salary, for my staff and my equipment, just in case I have a bad month, and to go roll the next business or to roll any sort of marketing or growth initiative. I need profits to play with things like growth and partnerships and maybe hiring more staff or trainers. And once you have that number of profits you need to add that to understand what revenue you make. So first thing you should always be looking at is what profits do you need so you can back into revenue. Once you have a revenue number, if you are membership based, you need to do the math on, okay, what percentage of my business will be membership? And if it's 100%, that's unrealistic. Not everyone's going to buy a membership unless you're a gym that literally doesn't have packages. It'll be a percentage. And then at that point, on average, what price point will your membership be? And then from there, you need to look at, okay, if I have this many members, can they actually book into classes? And so you start to do a math on a financial model, a mini model. And then once your mini model is ready and you're like, okay, here's the revenue I need to make per month to know that I will make this much in profit, then you just aim towards that revenue. So I would say profitability first, revenue second. I think distraction that an owner has is profitability per class. And the why behind it is at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot of members that don't take classes. And a member might stay a member because they see lots of classes. And even though they don't book, you look like you have a full schedule. So you need to look at profitability of the whole business, not of just a certain class. It's like a common oopsie I see an owner make.
That's interesting. You've grown Arketa and recently hit a milestone many founders, particularly in the fitness space, dream about because, you closed a significant funding round. So hats off for that. And I would love to know what lessons you learned from raising capital for Arketa.
Yeah, so company to date, we've raised over a $15 million Series A, and we've raised over $23 million in funding as a company in total. What have I learned? Raising capital is really hard. Anyone who raises capital, they tell you on the other side how easy it is. And they're like, oh, it's just so easy. People don't talk about how hard it is. People don't talk about the preparation and the work that goes into it. So whenever I am fundraising for Arketa, that is my full-time job. I am doing it 40 hours a week. If other things need to happen, great. I'm working 2 jobs. So you can't just be raising capital as a side hustle. It needs to be a full-time job. And then the third is you're selling to a different type of customer. That customer is an investor. And the KPIs and metrics and stories and answers that an investor has is going to be completely different. And so you need to shape your story and your narrative and what you're doing towards your audience. And so a lot of people, when they fundraise, they think about what they care about or their friends or their customers. A investor, depending on if you're going private equity, friends and family, venture backed, they have different sorts of things that they're looking for and you need to tailor to your audience. And then the last and I think most important thing for anyone who's raising capital is my biggest lesson I learned is to separate my own self-worth from an investment opportunity self-worth. You are going to get a million no's in life in general, and learning to not take you as a human a no. It's actually about the business and separate those things. That is a really, really hard skill that you have to do. I think I saw on Instagram and TikTok, there's this idea of rejection therapy where you go and you get rejected just to see what it feels like. So this woman will go to an airline and she'll say like, hey, can I have first class? No wig. No one's going to give her a first class ticket just to see what it's like to get rejected. Kind of like fundraising, you kind of get rejected a lot. And so the biggest lesson is honestly training your body to not take no as a personal, as to take no as, hey, here's how they thought about things. And then to use that information to learn and grow from it.
I have not heard that before, to kind of almost build resilience or rejection muscles by going and actively seeking out rejection so you can just
Yeah,
get
and the
used
why
to it.
behind it is if you start fundraising and you start to get some no's, that aura will then be a part of your personality when you're raising, and investors can sniff desperation. And so you have to train your body to always be talking about the business like there is something not wrong. And that is not a natural human thing to do, right? You want to tell people it's hard, I'm struggling, things are tough. But when you're fundraising, nothing's tough. The world is great. And that is the path that an investor wants to see.
Kind of switching back a little bit now to culture, and we touched on this before. You hire people from the industry, so their existing knowledge is super specific and relevant and effective. But creating a culture of customer obsession and the culture that you're passionate about at Arketa, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and again highlight as the priorities to drive the culture that you want at your company.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we attract people that are interested in what we're building in our mission. I don't think people apply to Arketa not excited about wellness, because that is what we do, and there must be something that intrigues them. And so what I said before is we hire pretty ruthlessly. We are looking and searching and excited about people that share that same mission. What we do is really tough. Tech is hard. It's long hours. It's tough problems. It's customers that may get frustrated more easily than someone in tech and need an extra hand. And that emotion then can transfer to an employee if you're customer facing. It is tough to work in tech. And so we just really, really look for people that want to be here and people that are excited about this mission and are in this rocket ship and want the same things that we want. And I think that that lends really well to a studio owner hiring their trainers. If you're looking and hiring a trainer and your trainer doesn't really want to be there, or they're not really excited about your comp and they're kind of just saying the right things to get the job, that trainer is gone in 2 months. And so you really need to think critically about, where is the mission? Where do I want to go? And even if the person who's interviewing claims that they want to be on this ship, people will say anything to get a job. And so as a business owner, you need to decipher the people that you're hiring. Or are they actually the people that are going to be here in 6 months and 12 months, and just be really, really obsessive over it?
Yeah, people can surprise you at all points, can't they?
Yes.
But in terms of those unexpected challenges, what have you faced as a founder, in terms of unexpected challenges, and how did you handle it?
Yeah. I get really tied to our employees, and I've naturally been this way as a human. The people that are around me, I see them as more than a butt in a seat. I see them as a human with an emotion and a career that I can shape and a friendship that I can develop. And I have invested a lot in people. And I think some of the biggest surprises is that even though I see that way, um, employees may not. They might just see this as a job, and they may leave. Actually, they do leave. And so, like, unexpected challenges I've had is people waking up one day and saying, hey, I'm going to go to your competitor down the street, or I'm out of here with no notice. And I'm sure a lot of studio owners can resonate with that. You put so much work into your trainers, you train them, you coach them, you listen to tears of their breakups and their car when it breaks down and all the human things. And then one day they wake up and they say, guess what? I'm opening up a studio down the street and I'm your newest competitor. You're like, are you kidding me? I just dedicated my whole life to you. How could you do this to
Yeah.
me? And so what did I learn from that? What I learned from it is nobody's going to think about your business like you do, and nobody's going to care like you do. And what you have to accept is that people are in your time and energy and place for a reason and for a space. and learning to just let go when it is time to let go is a skill that you will naturally have to have, because as a business owner, you are the only person that's going to be standing there at the end of the day. I know it's like really sad and like not a positive thing and probably not what an owner wants to hear, but I think it helps an owner understand like that is a natural cycle of life. I'm thinking like the Lion King, like the circle of life. Like the circle of life is like your trainers are not meant to be with you forever. Employees are not meant to be at Arketa forever, even though I think they're like my family and I want to hug them for time and time again. And so I think biggest learning is it is okay to continue to foster and grow and be obsessed with your people. Um, but you need to learn that at any point in time, people can and should and want to leave and grow. And the best thing you can do is continue to invest and then move on as fast as possible, and not really dwell on the human that leaves to open up your biggest competitor down the street. Easier said than done, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I can get the if we can get the Lion King music to kind of come in at that point there, I don't know which one we'd choose, but it's very sage advice, Rachel Lea. I'd love to a few more questions. Your long term vision for Arketa, when you think about that right now, what can you share in terms of your long term vision for your company?
Yeah. Two things. One is when you think of Shopify, you think of e-commerce. When people think of Arketa, I want them to think wellness. We are the one word in the whole world that is synonymous for that industry in tech. The second thing is we ultimately become the only piece of software you ever need to run your end-to-end business. Today, that's not only booking software, it's marketing suite, website, branded app, phone line, etc. What does that become tomorrow? Is it starts to chip away at some of your staffing costs. And so think your studio managers, again, cycle of life, they come and go and they turn over so fast. How can we use tech to do that? How can we use tech to automate a marketing agency and social media and all the tasks you could ever need at a studio so that you don't ever have to pay for anything other than Arketa, your rent, and your incredible staff that teach and put on these wonderful experiences.
What do you see as the biggest opportunities in the fitness and wellness space and technology over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty is that this industry is growing and it's growing fast. And so what I see today will probably not be what is cool in 3 years and what is cool in 5 years. I think what COVID has really opened people's eyes up to is we want to be in person and we want to have a third space. And what do I mean by that is we're seeing a huge trend of people drinking and partying and going to nightclubs. That is becoming on the decline. And so what is now a third space for humans? It's eating, because we all love to eat. And it is some form of movement and connection. And so what does that look like in the wellness space? That's parties with saunas and cold plunges. That's a trip of a retreat of a week in Thailand instead of a week at a club in Ibiza. People are now spending their money in wellness. People are also looking for more personalization. And what I mean by that is I think there was a popularity of P90X. Everybody does the exact same workout, or a Zumba class where everyone does the same. Now with all of these wearables, people are starting to realize that we are different humans. How I work out and how I eat and how my blood sugar spikes is different than how you should be working out and how you should be eating and how your sleep is and your blood sugar spikes. So we want workouts now that can accommodate that. So we're seeing a huge rise in personal training, one-on-one planning, things that are very, very personal, and then more of the group experiences for the social community. The other thing, and I kind of just mentioned this, is because there's so much good data on tracking things, people are just becoming really obsessive with data. Like I have an 8 sleep, a Garmin, and a Whoop, and maybe I'll get an Aura ring soon. People are becoming very, very obsessive with data. How does that tune into wellness? Well, you choose your wellness based on the stats that you want to improve. And I'll give you an example. If I want to improve my HRV, it means that I need zone 2 heart rate. Thus, I might start to move in zone 2 heart rate. If I have a woman that is tracking my cycle and I'm doing cycle syncing with all that data, it means I need low impact movement during certain parts of my cycle and straight during certain parts of my cycle, which means now as a female, I'm really excited about Pilates. Pilates is incredible low impact, but I'm equally excited about strength training because there is a time and a place for it. So data is kind of directing what modalities are cool. And then the third huge opportunity I'm seeing is a blend between hard health and soft health. We are seeing more and more humans go to physios and doctors and say, I want more of this. I'm not seeing my practitioner enough. I'm not feeling like I'm getting the treatment that I want as often. I'm actually going to start seeing a physio, a chiropractor, a physical therapist, a doctor, and they're going to be the one that prescribes my fitness and wellness routine. And I think over the next 5 years, it becomes more and more of a blend of hard health and soft health.
Yeah. You touched on some really interesting developments and trends that we're seeing right now. If you were to, I suppose, think about that from a studio owners that might be listening and how they can think about the future and future proofing their business, would it touch on some of those kind of soft health instances that you're talking about? What would you recommend for them?
Don't be afraid to change. I think an owner will start a business, and I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm an owner, I started a yoga studio, and we just do hatha. We only do hatha. We believe in no heat. We believe in just this one class. This class is a 75-minute class. And 30 years ago, this class was booming. My studio was packed. It was awesome. It was great. And I come from a very intense yoga background. And so this is just the way the practice has to be. Well, the way that the world is shifting is people want shorter classes. We all got to get to work. 75 minutes doesn't work. People actually really like heat, whether it's good for you or bad for you, I don't know. But humans like it. The consumer, there's a group of consumers that like it. And then in terms of the type of yoga, some owners are wanting it to be a little bit faster, and maybe they want to beat to the music because doing some of this stuff in silence isn't great. The owner that says, hey, I'm just going to stay where I'm at, I don't care about the consumer, may have less and less and less customers coming over time, as opposed to accepting, you know what, this is a trend. I may not agree with it, but I'd rather a human that comes into my studio, not in the way I naturally wanted it, but a human is a human at the end of the day. It's an owner not being afraid to adjust with the market. And what that means is you can't future proof your business. I don't know what's going to be cool in 2 to 3 years. You don't know what's going to be cool in 2 to 3 years. We got no idea, right? So keep doing you, but
Correct.
as it evolves, getting over what you thought was wellness and not letting your ego get in the way will make sure that you always have a thriving business.
Thank you. I have one last question. And it's slightly off topic, but I would just love to know, what have you done in the last week which has given you unbridled joy?
I am obsessed with the U.S. Open. So there is something about the U.S. Open is here in New York City. That is where I live. And it is a magical 2.5 weeks. And I know you have Wimbledon, and everyone in many big cities have their own form of what is tennis tournament. What is so joyful about it is, one, again, the third space, seeing everyone come together with a mutual excitement of wellness. You see kids holding their tennis rackets. You see people playing before you, people so excited about this form of movement, this obsession with this one sport for 3 weeks that then persists. And then the second is, I think there is something so magical about seeing humans do the incredible. It is a beautiful thing to watch, and you start to think about, wow, how hard are they training, and what sacrifices are they making, and how do they handle this kind of pressure? And it is just so joyful to watch other people that are doing really, really inspiring things. And I, of course, am not a professional athlete. I'm dealing with tech in its own world that is difficult and hard, and I become an athlete in my own way. But it is just so beautiful. It is so nice. And then being in person, like watching a tennis player in person versus TV, and like the shouts and the screaming is just awesome. And then it's global, which is so freaking cool, because all the sports in the US is just like rah, 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 US. Like Europe, US football, where it's, multi and international. Like we stay in our zone, and tennis is the rare sport where it's totally global, and that's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an amazing event. I love the US Open as well. I'm fortunate to have been to Wimbledon and the French Open, and it is otherworldly in terms of how hard they hit the ball, the athleticism.
Yeah.
I think they're the second fittest athletes when they've done, Tour de France cyclists, etc.
Cool.
I think
Who's the
players
most
are incredibly
fit?
high. I think Tour de France, so cyclists, professional cyclists. Again, it depends on the measure. They're not the strongest, But I think in terms of VO2 or whatever, I think yeah, they're amongst the highest. I don't know. Don't quote
Okay,
me
well,
on that. I'll probably say
I have
something
to
that's
ask
completely
you,
inaccurate.
what is giving you unbridled joy this week?
You know, my oldest son went to his very first music festival over the weekend. So that was his third space, which is not as healthy as the ones we've been talking about,
There
probably.
was
But
probably yoga and Reiki and some wellness stuff there.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And he had just the best time, and it was yeah, that's true. Kind of living vicariously. It was just really lovely and a relief for me and his mum to pick him up, and everything's fine. So, but that gave me a lot of
I love it.
joy. So yeah, Rachel, we're up to time. Thank you so much. This has been a truly fantastic conversation. It's so great to have this time with you. I really appreciate, all of your transparency, your wisdom, and I'm sure Arketa is going to continue to scale and do wonderful things with you leading the business. And thank you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much for having me.